Last time on the Skip and Josh podcast.
And the guy I was watching with, there was like 3.6 seconds left, and Michigan had been launching three-pointers the entire second half and missing every single one of them. And so my buddy says to me, even though they're in the huddle and during a timeout devising a play, my buddy says to me, yeah, they have no chance to win. And sure enough, they win. Like 3.6 seconds is an eternity in college basketball, as you know, because a few weeks ago a team had 0.9 seconds down by 4 and somehow won that game.
The Skip and Josh podcast is on now.
Hello?
Hey, how's it going?
Skippy, nothing showed up on my caller ID.
Oh, what a shock.
I didn't know it was you.
Everything going well?
Things are going well. Yes, it's Saturday. I'm exhausted. I have a million things to do. But of course, this always takes precedence.
Of course. It's Saturday afternoon, so we're coming off a couple of late nights of March Madness. I think both of us are.
That explains why I'm tired.
Yeah. I want to talk about March Madness. I don't know what you want to talk about, but before we get into like sports stuff, I wanted to reveal to the listeners and any new listeners out there about the results of a big production meeting that we had.
Okay, I didn't know that we were revealing that to the public, but okay.
So a couple of weeks ago, it all of a sudden dawned on me, although it took over 80 episodes, to like how to describe the show.
Okay.
Which was basically like the rundown type of show that you see everywhere all over TV, made famous by PTI, where you have all the list of topics on the right-hand side of the screen. So that's kind of like our format. We're going topic to topic, except we're not revealing to each other. First of all, the rundown is invisible because it's an audio show, so listeners can't see the rundown. And also the rundown's invisible to us because I don't know what you want to talk about and you don't know what I want to talk about.
Right.
But what came out of our production meeting is that we decided we were going to kind of make it a little more clear to the listeners when we are switching from topic to topic by throwing a little soundbite.
Yes.
Yeah. So
right.
When you hear the fancy little sound bites, don't be surprised.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we hope you enjoy it, and we hope it makes everything a little bit more clear, especially for new listeners who are might be joining us for the first time.
The production meeting would have been much better if it was catered.
Yeah, the craft services let us down.
There was none.
Well, considering you're in Toronto and I'm in Montreal, it would have been tough. We would have had to do individual catering.
That's fine. There's food in both cities.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Anyway.
We could have Uber Eats'd it, and we could have asked the guy if, we could have Uber Eats'd at the same time.
Your experience with Uber Eats was not a good one when you were here.
It was okay. Why?
You ended up not using Uber Eats.
No, I did use them.
I thought you used just the delivery service from the restaurant you picked.
I was going to use the restaurant, figuring it's simpler, right? But the thing is, you have to go, so just for full disclosure, I'm in Montreal, so anytime I'm in Toronto and there's a chance to get Swiss Chalet, although it sounds ridiculous to all the other Canadian listeners who just think Swiss Chalet is, super ordinary, we don't have it in Montreal, so it's kind of like a treat. And I was just going to order off the Swiss Chalet website like you recommended. They do delivery, so why go through Uber Eats? They do their own delivery, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then I had to register and put in my name and credit card. And it's I had a million steps to follow where I was already all set up in Uber Eats. And in 3 taps, I was able to just do the order, right, on my phone.
But you weren't able to use your $5 off credit
they
that they
didn't take my promo code. I think the promo codes are only for first-time users, which is a little bit deceiving when they send it to you because they should know that you're not a first-time user when they send you the code. Right?
College basketball.
All right, so March Madness. Did you stay up late every night watching all the games? And
yes, I stayed up to see the end of every game, which
Me too.
is part of the reason I'm tired. Mm-hmm. So, the most recent game that we both watched is the Duke game.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, Duke was playing Syracuse, and friend of the show Costa is a big Syracuse Orange fan. Allow me to correct myself there.
Right.
And so I was texting with his wife because Costa doesn't text or email or any of those things.
Okay. Fair
So
enough.
I was texting with his wife,
Right.
and they were all excited to watch the game, of course. And his wife said to me that if Syracuse would have won last night, they were going to go to Omaha tomorrow.
Oh my! So they were going to go to Omaha to watch the next game.
Yes. But
How far is it for them to go to Omaha?
I don't
from
even
Chicago?
know. I don't even know. But I said, don't worry, you won't be going to Omaha because Syracuse is not beating Duke.
Right.
So Renata wasn't very happy about that. But a fact is a fact.
The game went according to plan. I mean,
Except it was a lot closer than I expected it to be.
But I felt like it's going to be close because that's what Syracuse does, right? Their whole MO is let's keep it close, and the defense is designed to suck the life out of you and just drag the game out and keep it close and hope they can hope that, a few missed shots and a few turnovers will kind of, change the course of the game. But, like it does in most sports, the talent, shown, and like Duke's talent rose to the occasion, and they were able to pull it out. But like all credit to Syracuse, they had to go through the play-in game to get this far, and they did. And like under normal circumstances, I'd be cheering for Syracuse. I often have a soft spot for them, but not against Duke, right? So,
couple things. I have several observations about that game.
yeah, sure.
First of all, before the game, I didn't think it was going to be as close as it was because Duke has seen Syracuse's defense many times.
Yeah.
And Coach K knows Coach Boeheim very, very well. It's almost as if
buddies.
I was coaching against you.
Yeah. If we knew how to coach, yeah.
So I didn't think it would be as difficult, as challenging as it was to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, it looked like, early in the first half, it looked like Duke was going to lose, actually.
Well, I never felt like they were really in jeopardy of losing, but
Now, the only reason that Duke won the game is two reasons, actually. Free throw shooting, because Duke's free throw shooting was really good and Syracuse's was really bad.
well, the theme in the tournament so far is, if you don't shoot free throws, you lose. That's what happened to Kentucky,
Right.
Right.
And by the way, if you recall, the first time we ever went to Syracuse, was it, 20 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Even back then, and Boeheim, I think, was the coach back then.
Mm-hmm.
Even back then, Syracuse had a bad free throw shooting team.
Yeah,
They've
yeah.
always had a bad free throw shooting team. Friend of the show, Costa, will admit to this.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing. They've won a championship with Carmelo Anthony. They've had good teams,
Yeah.
but they've never had a good free throw shooting team. Anyway, sure enough, last night their free throw shooting, it was their Achilles heel because there were a few times in the game where they were down by like one or two and they had a free throw and that would have tied the game, and they never were able to tie the game. And psychologically, there's a big difference between
There
a
is.
tie game and being down by one.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was thinking the same thing. As much as a push they gave in the second half, they never overtook them. They never could take the lead or even tie, right?
Exactly.
Duke always held on. Yeah.
Even though it was a very slim margin, Duke always held the lead. The other reason that Duke was able to win the game was because in the second half, Duke's offensive rebounding was insane.
Yeah. Well, they have a huge size advantage, which is weird to say for a Duke team. They have a huge size advantage over almost every team, right? Like with Bagley and Carter, you have two big men there that are dominant, and then not only that, like the other guys are not small. Like even the guards and forwards are good sized players. So, but Bagley is just a monster physically, right? I mean.
By the way, this guy, O'Connell, played a few minutes for Duke last night. I've never even heard of him.
He should have played more, actually.
Although he had one breakaway or whatever you call it, and he didn't get fouled. He didn't get a shot off. Nothing. Like, come on.
He overthought it. He tried to like get fancy and it didn't work. But like the thing about the game is Duke shot 5 for 26 from 3. Right?
That's not
19%. That's 19%.
It's not good.
So that's the reason why the game was close. Because if they shoot 30%, like let's say a normal game, right? Not even a normal game, like an average game, then that's like 9-12 more points,
But both of us said many months ago that because of the way this team was built, that they wouldn't have to rely on three-point shooting to win games this year.
That you don't, and you won't see them shoot this many free throws again in the next rounds. It's because of that zone. It's so hard to beat. and then you pass the ball around. You saw what they do. They pass it around looking for a shot. They get it to the high post. They pass it back out. And then in the end, the only shot that's available is the 3. So they try to shoot over the zone, because they get a bit lazy. To me, it's very lazy when you just pull up for 3, There's one shot where Grayson Allen shot it from like so far away. I was like, what the hell is he doing? You know?
So I've never played basketball and I never coached basketball, but just observing the zone defense, it would seem to me that it would be easier to score against the zone. And let me tell you why I think this.
Yeah.
First of all, yes, they're set up in their zone, but there's gaps between the defenders.
Huge gaps.
You should be able to penetrate those gaps.
Yeah.
And the second reason is if you're playing zone and not man-to-man, and then the guy, the offensive guy with the ball, let's say he's driving to the basket, well, then there's 2 defenders, and they might get confused over, well, am I supposed to cover him or are you supposed to cover him? Because we're not playing man-to-man. So you would think it would cause more confusion for the defense, thus more offense for the offense.
But the Syracuse zone is so well coached that that confusion factor doesn't come into play. It's such a high pressure, and they all know exactly where they're supposed to be. I started to tell you last night on text, and I said I'll save it for the show, my thoughts about the zone, right?
Yeah.
And you teed it up for me last week when you said, like, right now basketball is only dunks and threes.
Yeah.
Right? It's all dunks and threes. And that is true. It's all it is dunks and threes. And then the problem is, how do you beat the zone? You beat the zone by taking a jumper from the free throw line, a mid-range shot, right? Something like the mid-rangers or little short jumpers or runners are what beats the zone, because you get into those gaps that you said, right? But the problem is the players today, they don't know how to play mid-range game. It's dunks and threes. So they're not comfortable in taking those shots at all. And they don't take them because all they want to do is just dunk it or 2 to 3. So the zone is like much more effective. Early in the year, I told you, I said, I don't want to pick Duke to win the championship this year because they're playing a zone. And I don't think they can win by playing a zone. It's the first time ever in our life that they're playing a zone, right? That's not Coach K's way. And I've come around now because I see how effective it is against like the modern day players, right?
Right. I mean, but every game, as you know, every game's different. So I don't even know. Duke's playing Kansas next, which...
Well, Duke's playing Kansas next, and Kansas is one of the highest volume 3-point shooting teams in the country. That's all they do is shoot threes. So that's going to be the game. That's going to be the game right there. They're going to either win it by shooting their threes and making them, or they're not, right? And the zone defense isn't going to have much to say about it, Duke's defense. It's either Kansas is going to hit their shots or they're not going to hit their shots.
At one point during the game last night, either late in the first half or early in the second half, it felt like to me there were only 2 Duke players that were taking shots, Allen and Bagley. No one else was even taking a shot.
No.
And so if you're narrowing down your options to 2 out of the 5 guys on the floor, how are you going to win?
Well, it's because Carter doesn't really like have plays designed for him. He's just like more of an offensive rebounder and gets like whatever comes to him by accident. It's not like designed for him. And Duval is a total slasher, so the zone completely negates him, right? Trent took a lot of shots and missed a lot of shots, but like that's why you mentioned O'Connell. I would have liked to see O'Connell in the game instead of Duval, because at least O'Connell is more of a threat from 3. So when he gets the ball, there's like the chance that he's going to take the shot and going in. Duval, they're not even respecting the fact that he might shoot the 3. They want him to because they know he's going to miss.
Duval's also a very weak free throw shooter. By the way.
Terrible. Yeah.
O'Connell looked really nervous every time he touched the ball.
He did.
Like as if he hasn't played basketball in a year.
I was surprised that Jack White didn't get a little more playing time.
I know. I've seen him a few times this year, but I've never seen O'Connell.
Yeah. So did you have thoughts about some of the other matchups, like the other games?
Well, I watched all the other games. Thursday night seemed to be more interesting than Friday because Thursday night there were games that went down to the wire.
Well, it's the left side, right side. We're in the world of like left-leaning and right-leaning political views.
Oh my goodness! Here we go.
And now, like the bracket is like reflecting that because the left side is completely destroyed. The left side of the bracket is like it's not nuts, and the right side is a little bit more to form. Right? You do Kansas, Villanova. You have like the big teams emerging. Whereas on the left, we've actually got something that's never happened ever in the history of the NCAA tournament, which is a number 9 facing against the number 11.
Right.
Right.
And you could have a 9 facing a 9 in the next round.
It's first of all, like the 9 versus 11 in that left-sided bracket, which is that region that everybody thought was going to be so impossible. So, Loyola Chicago versus Kansas State. I don't see any reason why Loyola Chicago's not going to win, honestly.
Oh, well, that's a toss-up, that game.
It's a total toss-up. Like, Kansas State is no world beater. Their leading scorer, what's his name? Dean Wade. I get him mixed up with Dwayne Wade and
yes. Every
whatever.
time I hear them say his name, I think they're talking about Dwayne Wade.
So he's out. Although he played like few minutes last game, and they say he's gonna try to play with whatever pain he's going on in his foot. So they're without basically their most dynamic scorer. Although they found other ways to get the job done. I don't know. I don't see any reason why Loyola Chicago can't win, to be honest.
I don't either, but it would be interesting. I mean, regardless of who wins that game, that winner can end up playing Florida State in the Final Four.
Yeah.
Florida State's a 9 also.
But Michigan is the team that we talked about in our preview show that was coming in, the hottest team coming in, right? They were the hottest team coming in. They ran through the Big Ten tournament. They were Big Ten tournament champions, and they've just kept it up where they left off, right? Because they just blew out. Who did they play? Wasn't even watching because the game was such a blowout.
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M. They just took them apart,
Texas
right?
A&M, and Texas A&M the game before had destroyed North Carolina.
Right, like
and Michigan was lucky to get there because Michigan defeated Houston on a last-second buzzer beater in their previous game. So it's a game of inches.
That's the way the tournament goes. Although Michigan Florida State is much more of a football game than a basketball game, wouldn't you say?
That's true. Are
right?
they bringing their equipment, their pads, and everything to that game?
Right. And then, of course, in the other bracket, like Villanova, Texas Tech, I mean, everybody expects Villanova to win, although Texas Tech can't be taken lightly. They were the number 3 seed. And then Duke, Kansas, like we talked about. I mean, that's the game me and you will definitely be focused on, right? I mean, I think that's the game that most people are going to be focused on. 1 and 2, Duke, Kansas. It's like 2 traditional schools, right? So
absolutely,
that's the ratings game,
Absolutely.
There's a great story going on, actually, with Florida State. That I just wanted to mention. When you talk about the best coaches never to make it to the Final Four, I mean, it's very tough to say, right? So there's tons, but Leonard Hamilton, how long he's been a coach for like 30 years. So on all different schools, and I think he had a little stint in the NBA too for a while, and now finally he's almost there, which is pretty interesting because he's quite a character in terms of like personality. So
good for them. I have to say I'm in this pool at work where we each were given 4 teams, 1 per region.
Right. You told me.
And your team has to cover the spread.
Yeah.
And so I only have 1 team left, and it's Florida State because they keep not only covering the spread, they keep winning.
Right.
They're always the underdog.
Right.
And they keep winning.
Well, they're
so
not going to be the underdog in this game, though.
They are the underdog. They are the underdog. Yeah. They're playing a number 3 seed, so they're the underdog. What bothers me is that when they played Gonzaga was favored by 5.5. Now they're playing Michigan, who's supposedly a better team, and Michigan's only favored by 4.5.
Oh.
So that's what bothers me because I want as many points as I can get, obviously, in this format.
Right. Did you want to give everybody an update on how our bracket challenge is going? It's not going well.
Well, it's going awful for me. This is my worst year ever. I'm in, thanks to your son and one other person who I don't know, I'm not in last place, but it's looking like I will end up in last place because there's not many more opportunities for me to collect points.
Yeah, your best possible high score is going to be pretty low.
Right. So it's looking like I'm going to end up in last place. But some kid by the name of Zach Lyman.
Yeah, he's a friend of my son. He looks like a good bet to win, actually.
He does, because he's in first place and he's got Villanova winning it all.
Yeah.
Although Sean is in second place and he's got Duke winning it all, so he's also got a good shot.
If Duke wins it all, Sean's going to win. If Villanova wins it all, I think Zach's going to win. Although we haven't crunched all the numbers, right?
No, but then in fifth place, I know we didn't even talk about third and fourth.
Well, fifth place is the most interesting. Friend of the show, Joe, right?
Yes, he's been a guest on our show, and he knows nothing about college basketball.
Yeah.
Yet somehow he has the opportunity to collect 304 points if everything goes right for him, which would blow everyone out of the water.
The common thread of everybody's bracket, when you look at it, is on the left side, no one has any of the Final Four teams, right? Like, there's not any person that has like the Florida State, Chicago, any of those teams, right? But on the right side, a lot of people have Duke, Villanova, maybe Kansas, right? So people still have hope there. But the interesting thing about Joe's bracket is that he actually had Florida State and Texas Tech, right?
Maybe we'll have to have him on the show to ask him, like, why did he make the picks that he made?
I don't know. So he actually is the only one that has possibility of getting 3 out of the Final 4 right, which gives him his like ultimate potential high score, almost 100 points more than the next person, which would be pretty interesting.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah. Did you have any other March Madness stuff you wanted to go over?
Yeah, I mean, it is and it isn't. It's more about television. So you may or may not care, but so there's no CBS games tonight, which is odd. It's weird. It's just
I mean, I don't care because I just watch wherever it's on, So
I know, but TSN did screw us a little bit last week. I think it was the Nevada game, and there was less than a minute left, and they went to commercial, and Nevada had the ball going into the commercial. It was Nevada's ball.
Right.
But then when they came back from commercial, we missed an entire possession because the commercial went too long.
Oh, that is inexcusable. It should never happen. The whole purpose of having a sports network is to televise sports. So if you can't do that correctly, you shouldn't be televising sports.
Yes.
But this rings a bell because I'm pretty sure it's happened before, even in this tournament with TSN since they began covering it. It's ringing a bell that this has happened before because they're in such a hurry to get their commercials, and then of course TSN puts their own commercials, right?
Yes.
So there's like the chance of mistakes is a little bit higher than it should be. Yeah.
Anyway, just to let the listeners know,
it's just a public service announcement.
The Final Four and the championship game will also not be on CBS.
Right.
So in Canada, we are dependent on TSN, which also means that we will not be able to see One Shining Moment this year.
But I thought we did see it last year, though.
Because last year was on CBS. They alternate every year. When it's on CBS, we can see One Shining Moment. When it's not, we don't.
Oh, okay. So the same thing that actually did happen 2 years ago, right?
Correct. We didn't get to see One Shining Moment 2 years ago, and we're not going to get to see it this year.
I thought that it was like they made some kind of exception.
No, you saw it online. You could go get it online after they show it.
I guess that's why. It's too bad. I mean, look, One Shining Moment is it's one of the best parts of the tournament.
It is. It absolutely is.
On my PVR at home, I still have the One Shining Moment from like I don't know how many years ago it was already, when Duke won their last national championship. Justice Winslow, Tyus Jones,
I think I may have that as well.
It's still on my PVR right now.
Yeah.
And I watch it from time to time.
And if I don't have that on my PVR, I have it on my VCR. Because I have about 10 One Shining Moments on a videotape.
Yeah, how are you going to watch that?
Well, I still have a VCR.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. You're like throwback technology there.
So I just wanted to point out some stats here. So going into the Sweet 16, there were, of course, 16 teams left. And don't know if you were aware of this, 4 of them were from the ACC, and 4 of them were from the Big 12.
Well,
so
that's the ACC had 9 teams, right?
Right. So even though they lost, Virginia, North Carolina, and Miami,
right?
And I don't know who else they lost in the first 2 rounds. The ACC still had 4 teams left in the Sweet 16, and the Big 12 also had 4 teams. So that's half of the Sweet 16 right there.
Yeah. Well, the Big 12 is a surprise because like Kansas gets a bad rap because we're like, oh, Big 12 champions. They're Big 12 champions every single year, right?
Of course,
but that doesn't mean anything. But now you have other teams because Kansas State is there and Texas Tech, I guess, right? I forget who else.
Now the SEC had 2 teams in the Sweet 16. They're both gone.
Mm-hmm.
And now the ACC only has 2 teams left because 2 of them played each other last night.
Right.
So there's only Duke and Florida State left in the ACC. The Big 12 of the Elite 8, the Big 12 still has 3 teams. So it's Kansas, Kansas State, and Texas Tech.
Right. Good for them. The Big 12. They don't get the respect they deserve.
So there's only one team left that's not from a major conference, and that's Loyola of Chicago.
Well, Loyola of Chicago. I don't even know what conference they're in.
Missouri Valley.
Oh, the Missouri Valley. Okay, yeah.
There you go.
They're often represented, the Missouri Valley, right?
They are.
Yeah. You have more stats? You said you had a few.
I think that's pretty much all I got.
Gambling. Please bet responsibly.
I didn't play Pro Line this week.
Okay.
But what I did do was I just I sort of circled the teams that I would have picked had I played,
Right. So
and then I looked at it afterwards,
yeah.
and I would have lost. So it's a good thing I didn't actually play. But here's one thing that's interesting. On Thursday there were 4 games. 3 of the favorite teams lost.
Oh.
Never mind covered. They lost.
Right.
And on Sunday, this past Sunday, there were 8 games, and only 1 of the favorite teams covered.
That's interesting because when we used to do our big higher stakes pool way back when, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You look at the seeds, and the seeds are supposed to tell you who's better. But that's nonsense, and we all know that. That's why there's all these upsets, right?
Yeah, but this year is worse than ever.
Yeah, this year's worse than ever. But like the trick or the strategy that I used to use, and I think other people did too, and you know about this, is I used to look at the lines because the lines tell you the truth, right? Money talks, right?
Yeah.
So,
the odds makers usually know what they're talking about.
yeah, so the lines often would reveal really who's the favorite in a 9-8 game. Or the 7-11, 7-10, whatever, right? So
yeah.
that was often really a good way of seeing who the true favorite was. But like obviously in this case, this year everything's out the window, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Sunday was quite a crazy day.
We're the only show presently in production that cares enough about you, the North American home viewer, to answer our viewer mail on the air.
So I wanted. We've been doing listener mail.
Okay.
We've been trying to. Now, although I didn't get any specific mail, there are many comments and different things on social media going on this week.
By the way, I did get a lot of emails since the last time we recorded an episode. None of them have to do with our show, but I did get a lot of emails.
I get thousands. I get hundreds of email every day.
So
Should
don't say you didn't
those?
get any email, because you did get email. They just have nothing to do with the show.
Show email, yeah.
Okay.
So I do post a lot of Duke stuff on social media, being a fan. So I'm happy when they win. I throw up a picture of a Duke logo, or I throw up a picture of a player, Grayson Allen or whoever. And there's a lot of Duke haters out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Duke haters out there. And
it's like the Yankees and the Cowboys.
Yeah, so I just want to say to all the Duke haters, suck it. It is what it is.
That's your prophetic statement of the day.
We're Duke fans. You could love us, you could hate us, but we're Duke fans. That's the way it is, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
So the listeners know that we sort of model our show on the Tony Kornheiser show that we both listen to frequently.
Very much, yes.
Yeah. And I want the listeners to know that you, after years and years and years of listening to the show and sending in emails, finally had one of your emails read on the show this week. It was quite an exciting moment.
So I sent an email to the show on Monday, and I constructed the email in such a way that it's not too long, because I think if it's too long, they're never going to read it. Unless it's from one of the people that they read all their emails, because there's some people that just automatically get their emails read. Mm-hmm. And I kept it to the point and tried to throw in some of their own little sayings that the insiders know that on the show.
The littles.
So I listened. The show drops. It dropped on Tuesday. I fast forwarded right to the mailbag, and then they didn't read my mail. I was like, oh, okay. Forget it. Then the show came out on a Wednesday, and then I fast forwarded all the way to the mailbag, and then I started listening, and then I heard my name, and I was so excited. Now, I shouldn't have told you. I should have kept it a surprise. Yeah. But I was so excited. I called you and texted you.
If you didn't tell me and I was just listening and I heard your name, I would have flipped out.
Yeah, I should have called and I should have not said anything, but I called you until you answered. And
I was in meetings, and when I came out of meetings, I had text messages and missed phone calls and call me right away. I'm like, what's going on? Like, I had to call. Yeah. This is huge because you never phoned me.
It was fun. It was fun to have the email read. And the amazing thing is I posted something in a Facebook group of the Tony Kornheiser loyal listeners. Mm-hmm. It's like a private group for the listeners. You're the one that pointed it out to me, I think.
Yes.
And I put some kind of very innocuous comment saying, after years of trying, I finally got an email read on the air. I've never had a response to a Facebook post like this in anything else I've ever posted, ever. There's currently over 150 likes, and there's about 30 comments.
Are they all people you know?
I don't know any of them.
Oh, okay.
They're all just other listeners of the show saying, "Hey, way to go!" Like, it's just the same nonsense, Like, it's quite a little group there. Yeah,
it's a big group actually.
Yeah. So that was my
your brush with fame.
The National Hockey League.
Did you want to go over any other sports? Did you have any other things to talk about?
Not really. I mean, I'm a little disappointed that the Canadians beat the Sabres because I thought the idea was to lose.
Okay, so switching gears to the NHL. Well, look, the tanking race is on, obviously, right?
You know what's interesting? I've gone to a lot of games in Buffalo against the Canadians, and no matter how bad the Canadians are, they always beat the Sabres.
Well, the Sabres are the worst team in the league, right?
Yes.
Statistically, they're the worst team in the league. And the Canadians now are 1 point ahead of Detroit. They're the 6th or 7th worst team in the league. But, look, there's no way they're going to... It's easy to say you're going to tank, but it's easier said than done because players don't want to lose. Antti Niemi's playing in goal. He doesn't want to let in goals. He's playing for a job for next year.
Of course, of course.
And are they a bad team? Yes. Are they going to lose all the rest of their games? No. Will they get a high draft pick? Maybe. We don't know.
No, we know nothing.
Are you following some of the races, like the playoff races? The St. Louis Blues kind of got themselves back in the thick of things a little bit.
I know this after trading away one of their better players.
Right, because they're only I think a point out of that last playoff spot.
It's going to go down to the last weekend of the season. It always does.
It always does. But I mean, most of the playoff spots are decided. There's still a little jostling for position within the playoff spots, right? Like some teams could go from that wild card to third. And then in the East, the division, the Metropolitan Division is still not locked up. Pittsburgh could still catch Washington or fall as far down to the wild card. Philadelphia could there's still it's within 1 or 2 games, right? A lot of stuff could happen still. But that being said, I am definitely looking forward to the playoffs. I saw a stat, the Vegas odds. Did you see this? Speaking of Vegas odds.
No, I didn't. What does it say?
Tampa Bay Lightning and Vegas Golden Knights have the same odds to win the Stanley Cup.
That's crazy.
And then next is Nashville and Pittsburgh and Boston and then Toronto, Winnipeg. But I don't know. It's interesting. To me, Tampa is, how I feel about Tampa. I think they're loaded and they were loaded. Then they got McDonough, so they're even extra loaded. Have you heard any of the scuttlebutt this week about Hart Trophy, Vezina?
No, I haven't. I'm so out of the loop. All I know is there was some general managers meeting somewhere warm, and they decided not to change the goalie interference rule, but to let the head office make the call.
Yeah, well, look.
That's all I know.
I'm glad you brought this up, actually. I totally had forgot about it because it's so disturbing to talk about. The goalie interference rule right now is the biggest mess in sports. It's way, way worse than the NFL catch no catch, right?
I think they're on par.
They're on par, but the difference is the NHL catch no catch. There is a rule, right?
The NFL.
The NFL. Sorry, there is a rule. As bad as that rule is, you described why the rule's bad, right? Because if it's a catch, it's a catch. If you're moving, the ball's moving. But they've spelled it out, right? They've spelled out what is a catch and what's not a catch. It's just that when you watch it on this slow-mo replay, it's your eyes are not believing what the rule is. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't pass the eye test, so to speak. The NHL, every time a goalie interference call, I've seen some this week on highlights. Every time a call goes to get reviewed, it's flip a coin, right? Mm-hmm. It's heads or tails. What do you think, guys? Right? Because there's no rhyme or reason to what gets overturned and what doesn't. It's really, and I think the players are. I think the NHL's heading down a dangerous, dangerous path into the playoffs with the rule being the way it is, because it's not going to be pretty in the playoffs when goals are overturned or not overturned.
I see. This is the year I've watched less hockey this year than ever before, other than like the World Junior Championships. So I guess my question is, what was the rule last year, and why all of a sudden do we have these issues? Like they've been playing hockey for over 100 years.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
Well, I mean, it started. I can't really answer the question as to what happened last year, but like it started because they want to protect the goalies, right? Mm-hmm. So that is a very noble thing to do. Like, and I understand why you want to protect the goalies, right? But at the same time, your product is suffering because it's already hard enough to score a goal. You know, it's already hard enough to score a goal, and go back and listen to our podcast from over a year ago when the NHL playoffs were going on. When we started getting into the playoffs, it gets 20 times harder to score a goal because you players are getting mugged on the ice, destroyed. Anything goes, right? It's very, very difficult to find any amount of space where you can score. So I don't know. I don't know what's happening, but like I feel like in all sports, the biggest problem is, and we kind of touched on this a few weeks ago, the instant replay's there, right? Mm-hmm. There's HD, there's 4K. Everything, you can see everything. Like you can see a blade of grass on the field and see if it's moving, right? Mm-hmm. You can see if the football moves by 1 millimeter. You can see if the puck is barely over the red line. Like you can see everything. But I think the crux of the whole thing is just because you can see everything doesn't mean you should want to see everything. Right? Mm-hmm. I think the best thing for all the sports is let the refs decide the call on the ice, and that's it. If it's wrong, it's wrong. You know, maybe the instant replay should only be used to see does the ball cross the goal line, does the puck cross the red line, like specific like black and white things that are like it is or it isn't, but not to review like every minutia of every single play. I know they want to get it right. They want the integrity of the games to be as high as possible by saying we're getting every call right. But at the expense of what? The enjoyment of the game? You know, like it doesn't, to me, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, they're not going to go backwards now and start taking away things from replay.
I think they need to, though, don't you think?
But no sport is going to do that because it's just like now people are used to seeing it.
Yeah.
And they have the technology.
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology.
So why would you say, "Oh no, we have this, but we're not going to use it anymore"?
Yeah. Well,
I don't see any league doing that.
But I know in the NFL they're not backing off the technology, but they are going to revisit the whole rule itself for a catch.
Well, I thought they already did.
They said they're going to, but they haven't decided what exactly it's going to be.
Right? I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess that's a big decision, you know? Deciding what constitutes a catch is a pretty big thing, no?
It is a big deal, yeah.
So I don't know. I kind of wanted to get your thoughts maybe on the Hart Trophy favorites Vezina and Norris, but I mean, like you said, you haven't been watching that much. Neither have I. But
honestly, I couldn't tell you. I would say because all from what I know from like 4 years ago, Drew Doughty.
Yeah, well, he's there. But look, the reason why I thought of you is because this week Connor McDavid's getting a lot of talk about could he still be the Hart Trophy winner. Because he's currently second, only 1 point. Like he's second in scoring, only 1 point behind Kucherov. So like, if he does lead the league in scoring, is he the MVP of the league? And that you've been a staunch advocate of like it doesn't matter if your team's in the playoffs or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I would be okay with a guy on a losing team getting the MVP.
Yeah.
But I mean, if the difference is 1 point between the two of them,
right? Yeah.
That's one thing. But I was talking about there have been players who've had far better stats on a really bad team that didn't win the MVP because they were on a bad team, and their stats were much better than the guy who did win the MVP. Right. In this case, you're telling me there's a difference of a point, whatever. It's it's not the same.
No. The top scorers in the league is 94, 95, 92, 91. They're all within a point of each other.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, Kucherov could win the Hart. So could McDavid. I mean, for me, Nathan McKinnon's right up there. He's third in league in scoring. Colorado's going to be in the playoff spot. Like, no one expected that. So that's kind of a cool story, And then Patrick Laine with 43 goals. Like, I mean, that's like the Winnipeg is basically one of the top teams in the West, and he's one of the top players in the league, And then if you want to throw in Vegas, William Karlsson with 39 goals, right?
Yeah, so someone told me this about William Karlsson this week, I think. And first of all, I'd never even heard of this guy till this year.
Okay.
And then when they told me that he had 38, 39 goals, I'm like, are you kidding?
Yeah,
I really am so, like, out of the
Well, they're in
loop.
first
It's
place in the
unbelievable.
league, so, I mean, they have to have some guys performing, right?
I know. I just assumed that there was a lot of balanced scoring on that Vegas team.
There is, but I mean, he's got 39 goals, right? So I know Marchessault also has quite a few goals, right?
I think the fact that Nathan McKinnon is doing what he's doing without Matt Duchene is even more reason to give him, consideration for the MVP.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, in the goalies, like it's the normal cast of characters minus Carey Price. Bobrovsky's having a great year. Vasilevsky, obviously, on Tampa's having a great year. Pekka Rinne's having a great year. And then the new guy on the block is the guy in Winnipeg, Hellebuck, right? He's seems to be like he's emerged as one of the best goalies in the league. Well, certainly in terms of stats. So.
And didn't Winnipeg acquire a goalie in the summer and thought that would be their number one goalie, and now he's not?
I think so,
anymore?
yeah. But Hellebuck's done so well that they're just riding him. Even though he's been a little bit up and down, so it'll be interesting to see how things happen what happens in the playoffs. Anyways, I'm sure we'll do a whole playoff preview at a certain point, in the next couple of weeks before the playoffs start, right?
Yes.
All right, is that it?
Yeah, I got nothing else.
Okay. You know what that means.
What does it mean?
Time for the show close.
Yes.
So, as you know, before you sign off, remember, you can listen and subscribe to new and archived episodes of the Skip and Josh podcast wherever you listen, including Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Google Play, the podcast app of your choice, pretty much any podcast app out there, we're going to be on it. If you listen through Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. Please, we would love to hear from you on email. Get the conversation started. We're trying to do listener mail as often as possible. So skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. You can tweet to us at skipandjosh or like and follow our Facebook page. And check out our website, skipandjosh.com. That has all the links to all the subscribe options.
All right, great. I love it.
All right, I can't wait to watch the Elite Eight.
Starts tonight, 6 o'clock.
Next time we record, we'll be talking about the Final Four. All right, so I'll speak to you next time.
Yeah, have a great week.
All right.
The Skip and Josh podcast is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.